welcome everybody. It's Jeff KIkel with T-Werx. I'm the CEO here, and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Essentials. I want to introduce you to my friend Melanie McCammon of McCammon Coaching. And we're going to talk to you a little bit today about what she does and the world of transitioning into the entrepreneurial world, find out a little bit about her as well. So getting started, Melanie, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to hear about you and how you've gotten to your point. So why don't we get started right away with telling us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. How did you get to where you're at today?
Well, I was not born as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I think I hear all these stories about people who were always hustling as kids, opening the lemonade stand or selling art or whatever, and that wasn't me. I had parents who went to college and got steady careers. My dad only changed jobs because his company got bought, and then he just, he worked for the new company. So, and then he just retired. So I don't come from entrepreneurs either, but I eventually found myself at a law school and then in a law firm. And after a couple of years, I realized that is not where I belonged. I was on this path. I was a professional. I was using skills that are important to me. I'm good at research. I'm good at storytelling, which is what brief writing is. A lot of advocacy is actually storytelling. But I just felt empty, and I hate fighting, so litigation really wasn't a good choice for me anyway. It was just wearing me down, being in constant conflict. But I also just didn't feel like the stuff I was working on was important, and so started to feel like I didn't matter, which wasn't true. The clients really did care about these lawsuits that I was working on, but it wasn't stuff that was important to me. It wasn't stuff that I felt like made a huge difference in the world, in the way that I wanted to make a difference in the world.
Makes sense.
So I started really questioning what I did want to do with my life. If I'm spending so much time at work, I really easily find myself as an workaholic, not alcoholic, workaholic. If that's where I'm putting my energy and my life into, what difference do I want to make in the world? And it wasn't helping big banks and insurance companies talk to their regulators. It just wasn't.
Sure.
So eventually I ended up saving up a lot of money. My husband and I moved further away from work. We had a really long subway commute. We lived in New York at the time, and just so we could just sock away as much money as possible to support whatever I was going to do next. And I didn't know what that was. And I think at that time when I was in the law firm, I really thought I'd be going into another job, another profession, maybe somehow using my legal degree in a way that didn't involve me being a lawyer. I was very unclear. So eventually I quit, and it was really scary because I did not know what was going to happen next. So I spent some time just recuperating from the whole working 80-hour week.
This is the recovering attorney part.
Recovering attorney, yeah. I spent many years not sleeping enough, not really taking care of myself. So I started getting enough sleep, eating, exercising, and really doing some deep work on what do I care about? What do I actually care about? What do I want my legacy to be? What do I want to spend my time doing? And during that time, I discovered coaching as a profession, and not everybody knows what it is. It's having a sort of productive conversation with somebody that helps move them forward, which is very vague, but it has to be a vague definition because it's going to be different for every single person. Because what you want, who you are, is different than any of my other clients, for example.
Sure.
So I discovered that and started thinking about where could I use those skills. I was in a coach training program, and I realized I just wanted to be in control. I never wanted to be in the situation where I was sitting in a room with a client that I had not chosen, whose mission I didn't believe in. And so in order to be that much in control, I had to become an entrepreneur, basically.
That's great.
Yeah. And so I started with slow steps, created my website, spent a whole lot more time on that than I needed to. Started networking, starting to build clients. I'm still at the very beginning of building this business, actually. So I guess that gets me to becoming the entrepreneur, just saying hey, I want to be in control of these things. How do I do that?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot more reading and research and learning involved in that. I'm making it sound and then I just did it. No, I have bookshelves full of business books.
But I think the important thing that you say through that process is you thought through this before you did it. You just didn't wake up one day and say, okay, I quit my job, I'm done.
Yeah, and I'm not even being fair to myself, because it's not like I quit and then I started reading books on this before a year or two before I quit. I read a book called The Reluctant Entrepreneur. So it was in there somewhere. And that's a book which talks very much about, entrepreneurs as very conservative people and, testing things before they spend any resources on it, building things slowly so they can see if things work. And so, I was already sort of putting those ideas in my brain at the time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your business. You focus on entrepreneur, or you focus on people that are making that same transition that you did.
Yeah, I work with a lot of professionals and new entrepreneurs. And so sometimes the professional is looking for another profession, and I help them, either figure out like, oh, I need to be in another company, or I need to be in a slightly different job. But sometimes they really have that same drive that I did of like, I want to be more in control. I want to be in control of how I'm spending my time, my energy, day after day, the legacy I'm leaving behind.
Absolutely.
And so I help those people by first, making sure again that their needs are getting met. Sort of like I said, when I quit, I had to sleep and eat and exercise. So that's really the first step, giving them the capacity to work on the more interesting parts of the question by making sure their basic needs are being met.
Excellent.
And then we work on clarifying things. A lot of people say like, I want to go into business for myself, but that requires, that's too general a goal. That's not something you can act on. And so there's a lot of work to clarify why they want to do it, what lifestyle they want to create, because you can go into business for yourself and create a really terrible lifestyle and really hate yourself in your life.
Yeah. Create yourself a job.
Yeah, so if the reason you want to create your own job is because you want to be there for your family and have more flexibility, then you've got to create a lot of structures around that to make sure that you do have room to take care of your family while still supporting your family. Because it's really easy for the job you create to also take over things. So a lot of clarity about why and what they really want to do, what they really enjoy. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about quitting, kind of think like, I will take my job that I'm in right now and then I will just do it myself because this is what I know. And so like I could 100% just translate it over without thinking like, do I like the clients I'm working with? Do I like using these skills? Am I actually enjoying anything about this? Sometimes like, yeah, you like the clients, but maybe you'd rather be serving them in a different way. Or you like these skills, but you'd like to work with a totally different set of people. And so that's kind of the second step, is just clarifying.
Do you do any work in identifying that avatar, that perfect client for them? Or is it more understanding why?
It's more understanding them than it is understanding the avatar at that point. It's just really getting down to what do they really, really want, not what are they supposed to want. What do they think they want? What does their mom tell them that they should want? It's what do they actually, who are they really, and what do they really want? Because a lot of times we suppress who we really are just to fit in. I talk about it as like when I was a lawyer, I kind of wore lawyer drag. I wore a black suit all the time because I knew I'd fit in, but it really wasn't me.
Wasn't you.
It was something I was putting on. And we do that, and it's we do that in our minds too. And so we have to walk away from that and get clear about who we are.
Sure.
And then the final step is creation. And it's really not me creating, it's the client creating with my facilitation. Some people will call that co-creation. And that is saying like, okay, here we know we're really clear on the goals, and I'm really clear on what I'm good at, and so how do I use what I'm good at to get me to these goals?
Excellent.
And creating the action plan, creating scaffolding to support you along the way. So scaffolding, for example, is like if I want to get in shape, I have to join a gym class where I have to meet other people and show up at, the same time every week, because if I leave it to myself, I know that I won't do it.
It's not going to happen.
So scaffolding is kind of like that. It's different for everybody depending on their needs and their desires. And so creation, and then just accountability and checking in with people and making sure they're moving forward. And when they stall, sort of going back into that clarity, sort of inquiry and like why, what's going on? Is it that you weren't clear on what you wanted? Is it that, oh no, like all the context has changed, like now my kids are out of school for the summer, so like the things that were working before, so it can be many, many things. So clarifying and then getting you back on track.
Sure.
So
that's awesome.
That's what I do.
That's a whole lot, because that's the challenge of the entrepreneurial journey a lot of times, is just that simple fact of being able to get your head right, and not create your dream job, and dreams can be nightmares sometimes too. So not a real good plan.
Absolutely.
So great. That really, for me, that clarified what you do and how you do it. What are you excited about now?
Okay, so this. I am starting a podcast. So in the course of networking, trying to build my business, my coaching business, I meet a lot of people who work from home alone. So either other coaches or freelancers, and I keep hearing the same sorts of, I keep having the same conversation with people. They're lonely. They don't have people to bounce ideas off of, or even just business ideas, not even sort of the ideas in their own profession. And so like there's a need there for connection and for community. And so I want to start a podcast, and I am starting a podcast, that I'm hoping will build a community for people who work from home.
Sure.
So I'm hoping it'll be partially affirmation. It's like, yeah, it is hard. You're not alone in that. Partially inspiration, like here are the ways that some other people are dealing with the same issues you are. Maybe you can model yourself after them, or maybe you can use those to come up with your own ideas that'll work better for you. And I'm hoping it'll be partly tactical and just actually, things you can experiment with and try for yourself. But as a coach, it's not going to be dictatorial. I'm not going to tell people this is the way to do this is the way to happiness and success, because I don't believe I know that for you. I really want it to be more experimental, not me experimental, but people can say like, hey, parts of this work for me and parts of that don't. And so it's called Please Don't Eat the Pencils. Which is because when I started working from home, and I built this beautiful office, it's got bookcases, it's perfect, and then we adopted a puppy, and she comes in and she pulls books off the shelf and chews them apart, and she literally eats my pencils, and it's really hard to work in that kind of situation because I've got like one eye on her constantly, and I'm not focused on my work. I can't really do deep work in this way.
And all of us have seen on Facebook the trials and tribulations of Pasta, and Pasta's her name. So.
Pasta's my dog's name, so she will, she doesn't just do that. She plays with the hose. She needs out. She needs in. She needs, to play tug of war. And so that's just one example of the distractions of home life. I mean, because there's also laundry. There's a million other things at home that can get you distracted off your main purpose of building your business. And secondarily, a lot of people when they're nervous or stressed out, they chew on their pencils. And so it's also got that that connotation, like don't stress out, don't chew your pencils. Like we're here, like we're gonna get through this together. We're all gonna learn together and build our businesses.
That is awesome. So
yeah.
when is this gonna be launching?
Very soon. I don't have an exact date. So it's funny, talking about the entrepreneurial process. When I first had this idea, I was thinking very small. Like, I'll just start a podcast and I'll just put it out there. Maybe people will find it, but if not, it's okay because it's really for me. And I started to realize, like, no, I mean, I can't help anybody if nobody hears it. And there's no point in trying to be small. Like, why not try to be big? And so the research I've done on starting a podcast says you really need to start with several episodes uploaded for that first day, so that if somebody finds you and likes you, they've got a couple of things to listen to. And then you really need to be incredibly consistent over the next 8 weeks, because this is the chance for you to be in the new and notable section.
Sure.
And so my plan is to have quite a few episodes in the bank before I actually launch it. So I'm starting recording next week. It's really exciting.
Nice.
And I do want to do this right, so I'm not exactly sure when it's going to be, but it should be before the end of the year, definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, now here's our 5-question segment. So
I'm excited.
Sudden death section. First off, what was your biggest entrepreneurial misstep?
Not getting started earlier. I think I am really good at spinning my wheels and thinking about things and like, well, maybe this and maybe that, and I could do some more research, and never doing anything. And the truth is, no matter how much I prepare, the moment I start to do something, I'm gonna learn so much in that moment, and I'm gonna have to reevaluate and redo everything anyway. So why not just start here and do the learning along the way, which is what I'm doing with the podcast. Okay. It's kind of like in the moment learning, just get started. And so at the beginning of my coaching job, like coaching business, spent a lot of time on my website and not on networking. Mm-hmm. So, nobody was looking at that website.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the funny thing. We all want the perfect website, and then we realize, okay, if nobody even knows who we are, what does it matter?
And when I started networking, I met coaches who had like a single page. It was basically like, here's what I do, here's how to contact me, or sometimes just here's how to contact me.
It's a big business card.
Yeah, I didn't need anything more than that.
Yeah.
And so that was a waste of time.
Yeah, but we all are perfectionists, and we want it to be perfect every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the challenging one. If you woke up tomorrow, your business was gone.
Yeah.
You're starting over from ground zero. You have your computer.
Yeah.
You have a place to live, and you have $500 in your pocket. What would you do first?
All right. So I really love what I do. I love my coaching business, and I love this podcast that's just a little baby infant podcast right now. And so I think I would in some ways recreate it. I would take that $500, I'd buy a Squarespace website and throw up a landing page, and that's it. Like learning from the mistakes of the past.
Don't waste time.
I would use some of the money to buy like a good microphone, because I do believe in podcasting. Like I like to listen to podcasts that sound good, so I'd buy the microphone. That's less than, you can get a good microphone for less than $200. So it's still not, we're still not at half the money yet, right? And I would probably spend the rest on Facebook ads and to get traffic for this this podcast. I'd probably start the podcast first and lead it into my coaching business.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So what's a good tool like an Evernote or Trello or something along those lines that you use every day?
The thing I use every day is a notebook, just paper notebook. And I use what's called the bullet journal method. Okay. And
so explain that for us.
So there was a guy in Brooklyn who just put up a website about using a notebook and just putting an index in it. And that's it, So as I go along through my day, I write things down in my notebook, and I just go sequentially, and I have all of the page numbers numbered. And so as I come up with a new topic in the notebook, say, I'm meeting with Jeff in a few days, here's some things I want to talk to him about, I go to the front of the notebook and I write down what page it's on, and like Jeff, page 2. And then if I had another thought like a week later, comma, page 15. And so when I meet Jeff the next time, I can flip through that and say like, oh, Jeff, I had these great ideas, let's talk.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so I use it for my to-dos, I use it for project planning, I have a million things about, everything that I'm thinking of goes into my notebook, because if you don't write it down, you lose it. And I don't know, my thumbs are too big for the phone. I prefer paper.
That's usually my thing, is the thumbs are too big.
And the greatest thing is you don't need an expensive notebook. You could just use
super
a
low
spiral.
tech. Yeah, super low tech. So what we'll do is in our show notes page, we'll include, we'll try and find that link to the website you're talking about that walks through that, and add that to that.
So bit of warning, like there are very creative artistic people who use this method as well, and they come up with the most beautiful designs for their notebook. You don't have to do that. It just literally has to be words on paper that are indexed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you can get a little bit of imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm not doing it right.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
Doesn't look as pretty. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I need a fountain pen. You don't need a fountain pen.
Yes. So what's a good book that you would recommend for an entrepreneur that's just getting started out?
I would recommend Essentialism by, I think it's Greg McKeown. I might be pronouncing that wrong. It's a fantastic book about getting your mindset right about what actually matters to you, making sure you focus on that and just kind of ignore the rest of the things that don't matter to you. And I think it's something that when I read it, I was at the law firm still, and it just spoke to me. I felt like it was like everything I had been feeling about certain aspects of my job that I just didn't have the words for. And he has not only words, but beautiful diagrams just sort of explaining how, if you're pulled in 17 directions, you're not making any progress. If you can focus down on what is essential, you're going to move forward.
That's fantastic.
It's a great book.
That sounds like a wonderful book. So how does our audience get a hold of you?
Okay, so the best way to reach me right now is at please@don'teatthepencils.com, or you can go to don'teatthepencils.com and sign up for the newsletter there. And so for people who sign up for the newsletter, I am going to be releasing some early podcast episodes that aren't going to make it onto the real feed. So you'll get to see some exclusive behind the scenes stuff and interviews that you just won't be able to find anywhere else.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited. Cannot wait to hear the first podcasts. And
thank you.
Hopefully I'll be one of those.
Oh yeah, gotta have you
on. But thank you very much for taking the time today and sharing with our audience. We really appreciate you being here and just excited about where you're going with your whole career right now.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So folks, thank you very much for coming out again. Remember, you can always find us on YouTube. And also, you can find the show notes page at www.t-werx.com. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week.